In Mass Effect Andromeda's multiplayer, you are part of an Apex team, the best of the best the Nexus has to offer. While not a regular group of soldiers, they are nonetheless talented individuals that take on the most dangerous and important missions in this new galaxy. In this series, we are going to take a look at the various class builds for the various characters in the game's multiplayer. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the next character in our multiplayer class guide series, the Turian Soldier. As always, remember that these guides are aimed at the harder difficulties in the game and are made for rank 10, level 20 characters, although there will be advice for lower ranked characters later on in the video. Now be forewarned, the Turian Soldier is purely focused on weaponry. To be at his best, you need to have a decent weapon. There are two real ways of working with this character. One is using a rapid fire sniper rifle or using an incredibly high rate of fire, high capacity weapon. I personally prefer using sniper rifles on different characters, so I opted for the high rate of fire, high capacity weapon for the Turian Soldier. So with that in mind, I start by maxing out Fortify, going up to rank 6, putting points into Unmove and Defense over Explosive Purge. The aim of the way I play the Turian Soldier is to be moving as little as possible, becoming pretty much like a turret or sentry gun, and a move and defense increases your survivability in doing so. Explosive Purge is okay for area effect damage if you like to go into close range, but I've found little practicality in using this ability, especially with this character. Next, with rank 5, I put points into Power Armor over Shield Feedback. Shield Feedback is okay, increases your survivability a little bit, but Power Armor increases your gun accuracy and stability, which is what I'm looking at, due to the weaponry I'll be using. And finally, with rank 4, I put points into Protection over Mobility. This is to increase the survivability of the Turian Soldier even more. Next, with Turbocharge, here's where things become slightly different. If you're going for the sniper rifle, I would advise going up to rank 6, putting points into Dump, Heat, Damage and Force in rank 5, and Recharge Speed in rank 4. This should allow the upkeep of Turbocharge with using a sniper rifle quite steady. However, the way I like to spec it for using a high rate of fire, high capacity assault rifle is for Supercharge to increase the gun's rate of fire as well as clip capacity. Then in rank 5 I put points again into Damage and Force over Accuracy and Stability, and then finally with rank 4 I put points into Duration over Recharge Speed. Duration pretty much ensures that I'll be able to use the entire clip of the weapon before the ability runs out. Finally, with the last ability, Frag Grenade, I only put 1 point into this as I'll solely be focusing on doing damage through weaponry. Next, moving on to the passives. With Munitions Training, I go up to rank 6, putting points into Sustained Fire over Precision. Precision is fine, especially if you're going for sniper rifles, but Sustained Fire and the fact that the weapon I'm using has such a high rate of fire and high capacity means that I'll easily be able to get the max defense debuff on opponents, not only helping me, but my entire team. Next, with rank 5, I put points into Weapon Efficiency over Melee Synergy. This is pretty straightforward as I'm using this as a weapon-based class. And finally, with rank 4, I put points into Weapon Training over Power Augmentation. With Combat Fitness, I maxed this out, going for max survivability, so putting points into Hold the Line rank 6, Defensive Positioning in rank 5, and Health and Shields in rank 4. As for weaponry, if you were going for the sniper rifle build, for example, I would advise something like the Vanquisher, Black Widow, or Inferno. However, because I said I am using an assault rifle, I personally favour the Sonid. Failing that, the Revenant, Roserad are also perfectly viable. Also, get as close as you can to the 100% recharge speed, especially if you're using a sniper rifle. As for gear equipment, go with something to increase your weapon damage, or failing that, your survivability. Now moving on to the heart of the episode to talk about the moves and abilities the Turian Soldier has at their disposal. Their first ability is Fortify. This is a turn on, turn off ability, so once activated it will stay on until the player manually turns it off. When you have got it activated, it will improve your damage resistance until turned off. However, you will sacrifice movement speed while doing so. The formula that Mass Effect Andromeda uses for damage resistance is that 100 damage resistance will cut all incoming damage by half, and with the Turian Soldier spec like this, you can get 95 damage resistance if you're standing still, potentially cutting all damage by just under half. This combined with Combat Fitness means that the Turian Soldier will only go down under focused fire. However, that doesn't mean that you should not use cover and waste your life. Like I said as well, if you're moving about the map, you won't have the maximum amount of damage resistance you potentially could have. One tip for Fortify though is that as your movement speed is sacrificed when it comes to extraction rounds or where you have to get somewhere quickly, then remember you can turn off Fortify. Just remember to turn it back on. Also remember to turn it back on after you go down. If you go down, then Fortify is automatically turned off. The next ability is Turbocharge, a wonderful ability that makes almost any weapon in the game 100 times better. Once turned on, for a short duration, all gun damage, rate of fire and clip size will be increased. This can really help take down priority targets or boss enemies. No matter what gun you're using Turbocharge as often as possible always leads to the best results. Just be aware that when you are using Turbocharge, you will be tempted to constantly keep yourself in the open, firing at the enemy. This can lead to unwanted damage, however this is negated a bit thanks to Combat Fitness and Fortify. Also with Turbocharge, be aware that when you actually activate the ability, it will instantly reload your weapon. This comes incredibly useful when you're using weaponry that have large magazines. The way I'm using Turbocharge with the heavy assault rifles means that you can quickly burn through enemies and provide a hell of fire at the enemy's locations. The next ability is Frag Grenades. This is a pretty standard grenade that once used will be thrown towards enemy locations. It's thrown in a standard arc and will explode after 2 seconds. The damage is quite substantial. Even with no points put in this ability, it can still cause a decent amount of damage, especially if you need to deal out some burst damage while you're reloading or you're on the move. You can also hold the frag grenade. Holding the ability button down will shorten the timer, however be careful as the grenade can explode in your hand. The biggest downside of the frag grenade is that it's a power cell ability, so you will have a limited number of them. The number you can actually have on the Turian Soldier with 1 point in it is 1, so use it sparingly. As with the passives, munitions training, this is focusing on dealing as much damage with my weaponry as possible. Sustained fire and precision in rank 6 can be up for debate. Some people prefer precision, especially if you're using a sniper rifle. However, with the weapon I'm using, sustained fire comes in more beneficial for not only me, but the entire team, especially when taking on high health opponents like Hydras, Destroyers and so on. Combat Fitness maxed out as well works well in synergy with Fortify, giving you a lot of survivability. If you stay in cover, have not moved for a while with Fortify on, and are low on health, you can potentially have over 300 damage resistance. Now the Turian Soldier, being a Turian, has slightly above average health and shields, which also adds to their survivability. They have a standard dodge mechanic with their jetpack, and a standard Omni-Tool melee attack. However, while airborne, they can float slightly in different directions, depending on which direction you were moving before you jumped and started the hover mechanic. This can sometimes give you a vantage point, but I found it less useful on this character. Now as for weaponry, like I said, it's really down to if you want to use a sniper rifle or high rate of fire, high capacity weapon. Now like I said, I like to use the Soned, but there are a lot of weapons out there. Some weapons that I've also had success with were the N7 Hurricane and the Daan. But anything other than sniper rifles and assault rifles means that you have to move around the map a little bit more. One thing I will say as well, try to take some ammunition type, either disruptor ammo or cryo ammo I feel are best. Disruptor ammo means that you can prime enemies for tech combos, as long as they're set off by your teammates, because the Turian Soldier has no way to actually activate combos at all. This will also help you deal with shields easier, or I personally like to take cryo ammo. This allows the Turian Soldier to freeze unprotected targets and debuff armored targets. This provides a little bit of crowd control as well, as frozen targets can't shoot back. Now if you don't have a rank 10 level 20 Turian Soldier, I personally would first recommend maxing out Turbocharge followed by munitions training. Afterwards, work on Fortify at least up to rank 5 and then Combat Fitness. This should allow you to breeze through the easier difficulties as you rank up the character. Now overall the Turian Soldier is a pretty standard class. It's a weapon based tank. Spec'd in this way, you could see him as an immobile turret for your team. He can dish out some of the highest weapon damage in the game, either with a heavy assault rifle or sniper rifle. The biggest downside though is his mobility, and thus he works better for hunkered down positions or kiting teams. But with his pure damage output and damage resistance, he becomes incredibly useful on the harder difficulties in the game. Anyway, I hope you found this guide helpful, and until next time, I've been Darkblade, bringing you my Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer class guide to the Turian Soldier. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.